One of the first questions that I typically get asked in a consultation after somebody has been arrested is, when do I get to see my discovery? When do I get to see the police report? When do I get to see the arrest video, the dash cam, the body cam, the DNA test, whatever it is? When do I get to see what the state or the government has against me? So that's what we're talking about in this week's video. So stick around and find out. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you all had a great week and a wonderful 4th of July. Happy Independence Day out there to everybody. Hope you celebrated safely and responsibly. So this week's video, we're talking about discovery. And what I mean by discovery is all of the evidence that the state or that the federal government has against you. Now, it's undisputed and everybody knows that you, as somebody who's being charged with a crime, has a right to see all of that evidence. They have to show you all of that evidence. In fact, there are specific provisions in the law here in Texas. It's codified under the Texas Rule of Criminal Procedure 39.14. It's also known kind of nationally as the Brady Rule from a case Brady v. Maryland. Down in Texas, there's a rule called the Michael Morton Act or the Michael Morton Rule. So there's all these rules that specifically talk about a defendant's right to see any and all evidence in their case that is exculpatory in nature, meaning some type of evidence that tends to prove or disprove a person's guilt and or innocence. So all that stuff is something that you as a defendant have a right to see. But the question I get all the time is, but when? When do I get to see that? And that's a little bit trickier. Most of the time, people think that once you get arrested and you bond out, you can immediately have access to all that discovery. And at least here in Texas, that's just not true. In Texas, typically the way that it works is once you get arrested and charged with an offense, that's the police agency basically charging you on suspicion of committing some type of crime. Whether that's driving while intoxicated, possession of marijuana, possession of controlled substance, murder, sexual assault, whatever it is, they are arresting you on suspicion of violating some criminal statute. Okay, they have probable cause to believe that you did. What happens at that point is their investigation file gets sent to that county's district attorney's office. Okay, the district attorney's office then looks at that file and determines what, if any, criminal charges need to be formally filed against that person. They may agree with what the officer said and say, yes, I believe that that is the criminal offense that needs to be charged here. They may disagree and charge the person with something completely different, or they may refuse to prosecute in general and just say, I don't believe a crime was committed here, and so we as the district attorney are not going to file any criminal charges, okay? While that process is going on and everything's pending, we as the defense lawyer and you as the client don't have access to all of that evidence. It's still considered an open and active investigation, and therefore it's barred from being disclosed. Now, there are certain things that we can get. We might be able to get a redacted version of the police report. We might be able to get some summaries from the arresting agencies, but we certainly won't get everything. And it's very rare that we get any media or videos or anything like that early on in investigation. Every once in a while there's an exception, but typically speaking, we don't get them. Now, once a district attorney has made the determination that a criminal case has been filed and that criminal case is formally filed against you, in other words, an indictment has been issued if it's a felony case, or an information has been filed if it's a misdemeanor case. Those are the charging instruments, the documents that charge you with a crime from the state of Texas. Once one of those things has happened, now your right to discovery has attached. So that's when we have a right to request the district attorney to present or provide us with any and all evidence that they have that tends to prove your guilt or innocence. And they must comply with that request in a reasonable time. Now, what that typically looks like is once a case has been filed, we get set for an initial court date, the first time that we have to show up in court and announce that Your Honor, we're here. This is our client. He's hired me to represent him. We are engaged in negotiations with the prosecutor. At that first court date, that is typically when the discovery exchange happens. That's when they will provide us with a disk or a flash drive or paper copies or whatever the case may be. But that's typically when that exchange happens. Now, as technology gets better, certain counties are becoming more savvy with what's called e-discovery, which they have like a portal that they can upload everything and then we can just download things immediately. That makes it a lot easier and quicker, but some counties are kind of falling behind. But in any event, it's really that first court date or that first initial time when a case has been filed. That's when we'll get access to everything. That's when we can start reviewing it with you. That's when we can really start figuring out how strong or weak the state's case is. So keep that in mind. Hope that answers some questions that I get a lot of. When do I get to see all the evidence? That's when. It's not until the case gets filed, but you do have access. It is important that you see that stuff, that you look at that stuff, that you go over that stuff with your lawyer, because like I tell all of my clients, it's your case, not mine. It's your life, not mine. You need to know what's in there. You need to see what's in there. You need to make sure that you understand what's in there so that you and your lawyer can have an educated and competent discussion on where we want to go from here. So again, hope that answers your questions. If there are any other questions that you have, any other topics that you want to see me cover in future videos, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to hear from you guys, either on a comment, an email, a phone call, what have you. Just let me know and I'd be happy to cover those topics then. Hope you have a great rest of the week, a great weekend, and we'll see y'all next Friday.